Hello, students. I'm glad to welcome you for our new course, the Entrepreneurship and Business Planning. My name is Tagaybayeva Lucia Islamovna. I will be a tutor for this course, and let me to introduce myself. I work in Karaganda Technical University. I'm the candidate of economic science, and I would like to tell you about the entrepreneurship, the development of entrepreneurship and business planning in our country, in Kazakhstan. So first of all, I would like to tell that entrepreneurship began to develop in our country after the collapse of USSR. Maybe a lot of things that you remember, we may say that previously everything belonged to one owner, and this owner was our state. But after the collapse of the USSR, the system of ownership have changed, and now we have faced with the new private ownership that began to change from that time, and during 20 years it have passed a lot of different stages, and we now have the good development of entrepreneurship and business. So our first lecture will be about entrepreneurial content activities. What does it mean, entrepreneurial content activities? The plan of the lesson of our lecture will consist of two questions. First question is about the definition of the business, and the second one, entrepreneurial mindset. What does it mean, entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship opens up endless possibilities for applying your knowledge, skills, ideas, and ambitions. It also leaves open the question of the profit that you can receive. Entrepreneurship is a creative process fraught with risk, of course, that imposes various responsibilities on an entrepreneur, not only financial, but also social, moral, ethical, and others. What does it mean, the responsibilities of entrepreneur? We, in our future tasks, will discuss a lot of questions and a lot of states that are connected with entrepreneur. The entrepreneur have to solve all questions of business by himself, and the responsibility will be on him. Not by his personality, not by his staff, but entrepreneur have to be responsible for all of his business and all of his activities in this business. The next one, entrepreneurial thinking. This is a necessary skill of the 21st century. It's in quantity, the ability to create and the ability to make dreams come true, something that doesn't yet exist. Of course, entrepreneur looks forward, he looks to the future, and he have to possess with non-similar mind thinking as it was before. He's a very, I must say, new developed person. So entrepreneurs are people who changed our world. This is consists of the three main points: the entrepreneurial thinking, types of entrepreneurship, the value of entrepreneurship. Definition of the entrepreneurship: the capacity and willingness to develop, organize, and manage a business venture along with any of its risks in order to make a profit. The most obvious example of entrepreneurship is starting a new business. In economics, entrepreneurship combined with land, labor, natural resources, and capital can produce profit. Entrepreneurial spirit is characterized by innovation and risk-taking and is an essential part of nation's ability to succeed in an ever-changing and increasingly competitive global marketplace. What is startup? The term startup refers to a company in the first stage of its operations. Startups are funded by one or more entrepreneurs who want to develop a product or service for which they believe there is a demand. Those companies generally start with high costs and limited revenue, which is why they look for capital from a variety of sources such as venture capitalists. We may say that startups are very spreadable now for the recent time, and mostly they begin their business without having any resources. I mean, without having any big funds, big financial possibilities, and first of all, they need to have the great idea of developing their business. So the key takeaways. A startup is a company that's in the initial business stage, as we said before. Until the business gets off the ground, a startup is often financed by its funders, and startups attract outside investment. There are many different ways to fund startups, including family and friends, venture capitalists, crowdfunding, and credit. Startups also have to consider where they will do business and their legal positions. The understanding of the startups. Startups are companies or ventures that are focused around a single product or service that the founders want to bring to market. Those companies typically don't have fully developed business model, we name it, and more importantly, lack adequate capital to move on to the next phase of business. Most of those companies are initially funded by their founders. The next one, definition, that many startups end up turning to all others for more funding, family, friends, and venture capitalists. Silicon Valley in California has been known for its strong venture capitalist community and is a popular destination for startups, but is also widely considered the most demanding arena. Startups can use this seed capital to invest in research and to develop their business plans. Market research helps determine the demand for the product or service, while a comprehensive business plan outlines the company's mission statement, future visions and goals, as well as management and marketing strategies. What startups do we need, do we have in our country, and what does it mean? Startup is a company built to find a reproducible and scalable business model. The responsibility of the startups, it's an opportunity to sell the received solution many times. And scalability, the possibility of significant project growth. Any young business is a startup. An important distinguishing feature of startups is manufacturability. Most of them are based on some kind of technological know-how, of course. Startups include, first, having an idea. The second one, idea implementation plan. Third, a team of like-minded people. Finance. And startups. Now, let's see, let's look through what startups in Republic of Kazakhstan do we have. Smart Satu. This is interaction between product suppliers and store owners. Next one, Pirog. The name of Pirog is very interesting. This is the intelligent and virtual driver assistant. Then Media Scanner. this formation of a personal news feed on a specific topic. Then another model gives sensor analysis of a person's profile in social networks and offering the best presentation for him. Kelly, this is the social network for women who are sitting at home and taking for their young children, for their babies who haven't work, and they discuss a lot of problems and different tasks between all of them in this site. Then the next one, CamCare. This is the service for tracking the location of children. RC Almaty, development of human sleep normalization devices. Top is KSK. The service allows you to submit an apparel, receive notifications about all changes to your home office, evaluate the quality of your home office, and get useful advice on how to improve your home. What do we have now? Now in our country, we have about 40,000 startups registered. They include 20 business incubators, about 7 technoparks, and of course, various contests or hackathons, as we call them. The low degree of further development and transition to a full-fledged business. Those are lack of funding, lack of specialists, lack of necessary knowledge and skills, and lack of information, stereotypically thinking, as we used before. Now we know that the new startups, the founders of the startups, they have to possess with in normal thinking, as we call it, the strategic thinking maybe, and the little experience in increasing innovations. So what do we have now? Now we have all of those points. And how is it done in the world? Now let's look through the world. If before we have the picture of startups that began to develop in our republic, now let's look through in outside from abroad. This is most of all the small business entrepreneurship, then the scalable startups, startups for sale, and social entrepreneurs. Those the types of new startups in the world. Small and medium business. In small business, the average annual number of employees is not more than 100 people. The average annual income is not more than 300,000 times to MCI. You cannot remain a small business entity if you carry out activities related to the next one, and let's look through them, with the circulation of narcotic drugs, psychotropic drugs, and perquisitions, with the production of the sale and the accessible products, with grain storage at grain receiving points, with gambling business, with the circulation of radioactive materials, and of course, banking, auditing, consulting, security, civilian and service weapons circulation. As for medium business, the average annual number of employees varies from 101 to 250 people. The average annual income is over, if in small business this is not more than 300,000 times, here is over 300,000 times, but doesn't exceed 3 billion times inclusive. So this is the difference between small and medium business. Now let's look through the factors of success. First, define the vision and mission of the company or business. Define goals and objectives for today, develop a succession plan. Then we need to determine goals and objectives for the future generation, develop a scheme for the distribution of inherited property, then to create, of course, a team, because without a good team which has the same goal of the film, the same interest to succeed, to achieve the goal, we cannot create our successful startup. Then we need to develop and implement company values, of course, and develop and implement a corporate culture. This is one of the serious problems and tasks, to have a good corporate culture and the good implementation of the values of the company, to interest your staff to work in your company, to work with you in your group, and the culture, this is one of the rather important things. So as one of the main or the most popular people who began his business from anything, this was the man, his name is Robert Kiyosaki, and his citation was that one of the most of his citations, he has a lot of citations for the success, but one of them, the most powerful and valuable asset we have is a mind, our mind. So without our thoughts, without strategic thinking, we are not able to get success in something. The next one, entrepreneurial thinking, assignment. Write your thoughts in the table below. We have the table with two columns. The first one, this is the entrepreneur, and the second one, not entrepreneur. Now you have to discuss the differences between those two types of entrepreneur, in business or not in business. So the first one is the personal qualities, each of them, and the manner. So we will you will do this table on the next to your class. This will be the practical class. Now we just will discuss some of them. The main difference between entrepreneurs and other people is that they have three special properties of thinking. They're active, they're responsible, and they are result-oriented, of course. Because when we set some goal for ourselves, we need to see our future result. What do we want to succeed in? What do we want to get in the future from maybe, of course, to get a good profit, to be a well-known firm, the famous firm, to have a good quality of our products or services, and so on. Now, Guy Kawasaki said also, for them, business is not a job, but a state of mind that changes the future. This is rather interesting. Entrepreneurial thinking is a necessary skill of the 21st century. It is ingenuity, the ability to create, and the ability to make dreams come true, something that doesn't yet exist. This is something new. Actually, I didn't expect to be able to make money. It was enough for me to earn enough to cover the rent and buy some food. But in the end, it all turned out to have value. It's not scary to make mistakes. The main thing is to be wrong everything time in something new, says Elon Musk. He has a big camera symbol of a person with entrepreneurial thinking. It was this that allowed Musk to found a startup PayPal, which he created, which changed the world of finance by creating an electronic payment system. Now, a lot of people use this system. Founding the world's first private company that built space rockets, SpaceX, developing a Tesla electronic car, learning how to use solar energy to supply entire cities, and etc. A lot of very important question is covered by Elon Musk. And they have their possibility to live in the future, to develop in the future, to have a success in the future, and they are very necessary for our future also. Now, the assignment. Let's summarize all the qualities of an entrepreneur that various scientists have identified. It's striving for independence, freedom of action, creative work, capital creation, the need for domination, power, influence, the will to win, striving for success in the fight against rivals and oneself, recognition of opportunities, the ability to design, the ability to manage risks, the ability to survive failure, a propensity for action, not planning. So now you can distribute all those qualities in the table. In the first column, those qualities that you possess. In the second, those that you don't yet exist. There isn't, this is the table. Now let's speak about the types of entrepreneurship. We have 3 types of entrepreneurship. We name them B2C, B2B, B2G. What does it mean? B2C, this is business to consumer. Then B2B, business to business, and business, the last one, for the state. Now we have the picture of the connections, each of them with, of course, goods and services. And we see that each of them is connected with also with goods and also with services. Let's look through each of them and understand what the meaning of these types of the entrepreneurship. The business to customer, business for a client, consumer, living person, private person. Those companies produce consumer goods or services that we buy on a daily basis. There are several types of consumer goods in the first: food, drinks, medicine, clothing, and shoes. The second one, of course, cars, apartments, entertainment, and the luxury, art and jewelry. Services can be hairdressing salons, beauty salons, working with car at a service station, and others. B2C, the specifics of this. This more direct customer contact will feature the following things: the largest number of both consumers and competitors, relatively small average check for companies, faster sales, great role of emotions in the client's decision making, less close relationship between the seller and the buyer. So, B2C commerce, the sale of goods and services through online stores and sites such as Avito, social networks like Facebook, VKontakte, Vite, Instagram, LiveJournal, and others. Telemarketing, the work of teleshops, calling client managers to sell goods, markets and mobile points of scale. Here a specific feature is the mode. And in the morning we lay out the goods, in the evening we collect them. We appear in stores, gas stations, hairdressers, markets, always in the company of a large number of people who came in parallel. We make relatively small purchases for the most part, quickly enough, often on emotions, and at the same time, we do not always have sincere conversations with sellers, right? Yes. Online commerce in B2C is usually expressed by online stores or sales groups, public pages, maybe public pages and social networks. Everything is sold there, from small things to educational programs and trainings consisting up to hundreds of thousands, and there are also private purchases. What are B2C companies? Let's look through them. Now, about the types of business for the client, those are shops. First of category, shops. Standard retail outlets, large and small in area, from shopping centers to stalls. The next one, catering points. This is the private canteens, cafes, and restaurants. B2C commerce, the sale of goods and services through online stores and sites such as Avito, social network, as we said, as we mentioned before, the Facebook, Contact, Twitter, Instagram, LiveJournal, and others. Then the next one is telemarketing. This is the work of teleshops, calling client managers to sell goods. Then the markets and mobile points of sale. Here a specific feature is the mode. This is the mode. Let's continue from the point that markets and mobile points of sale. Here a specific feature is the mode. In the morning, we lay out the goods. In the evening, we collect them. The markets and mobile points of sale, here a specific feature is the mode. In the morning, we lay out the goods. In the evening, we collect. The next one pronounced B2B. The looks pretty. B2B from English stands for business to business, business between firms. That is, companies operating in this area are not guided by a person as a consumer, but by other companies, legal entities. Most of us, often such firms organize accompanying services. For example, transportation of goods, create means of production such as machines, tools, other goods for professional use, high-level exteriors, care products for beauty salons, or equipment parts for factories that produce it. It is B2B that allows small business to compete with business sharks, especially in this century when all the conditions for e-commerce are in place. As part of online trading platforms, it's more convenient to conduct B2B contacts. They allow you to optimize the communication of enterprise managers with each other and making decisions about interaction in the best way. The B2B direction is characterized by a number of points. The features of B2B segment. Business to business is the market for professionals. Responsible persons in enterprises are very well aware of all the necessary properties of the desired product or service, and the likelihood of buying on emotions is eligible. So we outline the main specific aspects of the company's work in this segment. Increased check of each concluding transaction, which confirms the meaning of the fight for the client. Increased risk of loss of both material resources in the event of bad faith of the counterparty and loss of reputation. Stable business relationships and limited number of clients. Unfortunately, our country is still characterized by increasing corruption in this segment. However, all the conditions have been created to overcome it. You just need to tackle this issue with the help of telephone hotlines for those people who are not indifferent enough to this. The purchase decision is most often made collectively. Preliminary research of prices and suppliers is carried out. Competitive bidding is often held. In almost all cases, negotiations and agreements are held. What is B2G, the next one? And this is the third one, the last type of the business. The business to government is the relationship between business and government. As a rule, e-commerce is used here as well, if not more, to simplify the work of procurement managers from the government. What distinguishes B2G segment? The relationship with the government is always more responsible than with private business partners. The moments typical for the business for the state segment are complex, multi-level decision-making mechanism. Tenders are a very typical system for state institutions of a range in competition for firms for prices, qualities, conditions, and other characteristics. And certain specifics and difficulties with calculations as well as procurement mechanisms. Inertia, stability, constancy, which may explain some decisions on the choice of companies that provide goods and services to government agencies. Then another scope, the scale of purchases announced in the use of federal channels is sometimes impressive. Involvement of administrative resources in all processes. The type, what are the types of B2G? There are a number of forms of business for the state. First, supply of goods and provision of services to the state, stationery, equipment, transport, textbooks, educational programs, consulting, and much more. The next one, lease. In this case, the business is the tenant, and the state is the lesson, that is the business unit that leases out certain properties. And the last, leasing of equipment. Lease with the right of subsequent purchase as a rule, with the involvement of an investor bank and the conclusion of the lease agreement. So, concessions. Involvement by the state of business in the mutually beneficial use of property owned by the state or services provided by it on capable terms. And the last one, this is the public-private partnership. As a rule, a partnership agreement is drawn up. So, at the end of our lecture, if you have questions, you may write to me in my site of the university. And now I have a task for all of you. Try to give your personal examples to business. We have the table with different types of the business, and you will give your own examples. The first column is the goods B2C, and then the services B2C. The next one, goods for B2B and services B2B, and the goods for B2G and services also B2G. You have to write down your personal examples of the business that we have in our country, and that has a reliability to those names, to those different types of business. At the end of the lecture, you may look through the additive literature, and you also see what sites I have discovered, I have used in our lecture. So good luck. Next, see you in our next lecture. Bye.